Hello friends, I'm Field Instructor Atul Dahale and welcome to my YouTube channel. In the semi-finals of Champion Chess Tour Skilling Open, All-American match was set. Yes, Wesley So against Hikaru Nakamura. This was a very crucial match because when these two players are competing, there is some kind of a different energy in the match, and Wesley So crushed his opponent Hikaru Nakamura, who is considered as one of the best players when it comes to shorter time control. Wesley So showed that why he is the champion when it comes to complicated position, that is the 960 world chess champion he is. Well, in this game the opening was random, and then in the middle game Nakamura tried to implement some kind of idea, but that did not really work for him. His two bishops were stuck at one side of the planet, and you can say the main battleground was happening on another planet, and in meantime when the right moment came, Wesley So sacrificed his bishop and demolished his opponent's king side, and then finally he was able to checkmate his opponent. So without further delay, let's get started with the game and understand what really happened. But before we go further, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you are new here. So in this game, Nakamura was black and Wesley So was white. He started with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. We are looking at this position again and again in this Skilling Open. This is getting very trendy. c3, knight f6, and now d3. This is the Italian game, you can say. Then d6, castle, and now h6. Well, as I mentioned in the previous video also related to the Anish Giri versus Magnus Carlsen game, if you have not seen that game, do watch that game, guys. In that game h6 was also played, then rook e1, castle, and then knight d2. Here the usual idea is to go for b4, knight f1, knight g3. This kind of ideas are there, but before white plays for b4, black player played a5 in this position, stopping all the ideas which are related to the queen side expansion. But Wesley So had already decided to go to the king side, so he plays knight f1, then bishop e6. Here Wesley doesn't want to capture the bishop and ruin the pawn structure. Well, to be honest, it is not ruining the pawn structure because black will definitely get d5 breakthrough and his pawn structure will be okay. One more thing is that this knight, if it comes on the e3 square, it will not be having these two important squares in the position. So bishop into e6 is not usually played in this position, and white players play bishop b5, attacking the knight on c6. Some of the players can go for knight e7, which was one of the choice by Magnus Carlsen in his game, but today here Nakamura played bishop b6, which is very understandable move, and the knight joins the king side with knight g3. Here a very unnatural plan, I will say. Knight h7 was played by Nakamura. I was personally thinking about something like d5 in this position, or even if I want to play, I will play knight g4 attacking this pawn on f2, and if this pawn is saved by bishop e3 or rook f2, then the position will be different. Like if you play bishop e3, this will definitely not a good move because knight into e3, f into e3, and this bishop will be doing a great job. And if you play rook f1 or rook e2, in that case the position is okay, and I can even think about playing f5 because this bishop has already moved away from the diagonal which is there. Okay, so knight h7 was played, obviously with the idea of playing knight g5. Here he plays h3 because see here if you play d4, which is also a very interesting idea, then I will say that okay, if you capture and bishop g4 is one of the moves, and the pressure on the f3 knight will be there. Means this is a pin. Now knight into d4 is the threat, and if d5 this kind of move happens on the board, then knight e5 is coming, and okay, you need to come back with bishop e2, and the position will be double-edged, I'll say. With this bishop is having a good diagonal, and definitely Wesley So did not want all these complications, or you can say the exchange of pieces, because if you see this position, there can be multiple exchanges happening on the board, and he wants to keep pieces on the board. So here he plays h3, stopping bishop g4, then knight g5 came, knight into g5, h into g5. Here you should understand that you should capture with the knight, not with the bishop, okay? Because if you capture with the bishop, then I think like two bishops will be good enough for you, and this bishop is not really in the game right now. The bishop on c1, the last square bishop, is more important for us than the knight which is sitting on the f3 square. So obviously knight into g5 was played, then h into g5, and now he goes for the center breakthrough with d4. E into d4, here white cannot really capture c into d4 because that will lead to knight into d4. The pawn will be lost. So we must first play bishop into c6, remove the defender from the d4. Then after b into c6, c into d4. The pawn structure is little bit bad, okay, and white is having this strong center in the center of the board. Then knight is also ready to come on the f5 square whenever he pleases. The pawn on g5 doesn't look that much good. So I will say that the strategy which Nakamura has adopted in this game is not that much cool, okay. So here he tries to open up the position with c5, but Wesley doesn't want to open up the position. He goes for the move, that is d5. The bishop is being attacked. Bishop falls back to d7 square, and now in order to stop the expansion on the queen side, he plays a4. Well, why a4 is played, I already said, like the expansion is stopped, but also there is a possibility of rook a3 and bringing the rook to the other side of the board. This is a very interesting idea. We should always remember about the rook lift, okay. So a4 is played. Another thing is like bishop b5 is also stopped. So this look a little bit bad. Miss the bishop on b6 looks a little bit bad to me. Rook e8, putting some pressure on e4 square. Now it's time for you to build up the position more. You have already have the knight, the rook is also there. This rook can come in the game, but your bishop on c1 is little bit clueless, and you need to put that piece on a square where it will be exerting good pressure on your opponent. So he plays bishop d2 with the idea of playing bishop c3, followed by this bishop will be doing wonders in the game. And I will tell you, stay tuned till the end and understand what really happened in the game, okay. Don't just miss out the thing which happened in the game. It is a very crucial thing. Now c4, he brings the queen to the king side where he wants to do some other things like rook b8. Okay, black is playing some of the moves which are not really necessary in the position. Rook b8 was not at all necessary. Maybe I will prefer to play queen e7 in that case. That was also one of the possibilities, just staying the foot in the game. Now bishop comes to the c3 square, putting good pressure on this diagonal, okay. Now bishop c5 is played. Obviously bishop c5 is played in order to put pressure on the b file. That was the main objective of rook b8, okay. Bishop c5, and also one thing is that the bishop might be coming to b4 square. Now the pawn on a5 is not really hanging because your pawn on b2 is being attacked. Means if you capture here, then rook into b2 and black will be back in game because the pawn on f2 is also a weak pawn. So obviously Wesley So doesn't want to go for all those things. He plays rook e2, supporting the pawn on b2. Now it's time to play something more interesting. Here black plays f6, supporting everything and blocking this bishop's path, okay. Now the knight comes to f5 square. There are different ideas in this position, as the queen side is already blocked, the center is also blocked. So you can say that whenever you are going for the flank attack, you should go step by step. You should first of all close everything, and then you can go h4 or h5 and try to undermine the pawn structure, which is already a little bit shaky, I will say. So bishop b4, he is wants to exchange the bishop. He goes to bishop d4, again bishop c5, he again comes back, bishop b4. Now you can obviously draw the game, but Wesley is already having a good position. The pawn on c4 is a weakness, so he goes for that pawn, knight e3. He's attacking the pawn here. Bishop c8 is played in order to play bishop a6. Indirectly it is stopping it, because if you play knight into c4, then bishop a6 will be coming, and this bishop will be putting pressure also, and there might be coming some exchanges might happen on the board. So Wesley did not go for the pawn on c4 because the pawn on c4 is anyhow a weak pawn. He plays bishop d4, still giving his option some chances, so opponent some chances. Bishop a6 is played, knight f5. He again comes back with the knight, bishop c8. Okay, he wants to exchange the knight at any cost. Knight comes back to e3 square, and okay, now here after this some moves, here Wesley says like, okay, I don't want to make a draw or something, I'll just attack your pawn which is on c4, which is a weak pawn. He plays rook c1. Here black made a little bit mistake. He played queen d7. Okay, you can understand one more thing also. In this position, if the c4 pawn falls, then the c7 pawn is already a weakness. So he plays queen d7, going for queen f7 or something like that, trying to get your pieces on the other side of the board, and also the pawn on a4 is being attacked. But here Wesley So said like, okay, you want to capture all these pawns and come here, I'll just simply play rook e c2, attacking the pawn on c4. Here bishop a6 is played, supporting the pawn, and now it's time to go for the kingside attack with h4 move. after g into h4, the idea is to play queen g4. Now bishop is actually going to capture on f6 square, okay, because there is a pin. So Nakamura thought like, okay, there is a pin, so I can play king f8 and I will be escaping. But Wesley So had already seen something amazing in this position. He goes for bishop into f6 in this position, crushing over his opponent's king side completely. Now g into f6, and he had the choice, like he played queen into h4. Okay, he could have played queen h5 also with the same result, but he plays queen to h4. Now queen h8 followed by, means if I play some random, I'll just show you. If queen h8 check comes, king comes here, then queen g7 is a check and mate. So in order to prevent this queen h8 check, he played king g8. Okay, queen f7 was also one of the ideas, but still I will say that this will lead to a position which was similar to the game, and white should be slightly, means white should be better in that case also. So he plays king g8, stopping this queen h8 checkmate, and now the rook needs to come to the g3 square. Okay, so he plays rook a2. Okay, another idea is to play rook c3, but that really is not working in this position, because after bishop into c3, rook into c3, you might say that I'm going to play rook g3 and it is going to be a checkmate. But black has this resource, that is rook b3, and the check, which is g3, is just your dream. Okay, it will not happen in reality. So that is not going to happen, but okay, we have plenty of time. These two bishops are completely out of the game. The rook on b8 is not doing that great job, so we can play rook e2. We can go slowly. Okay, now rook e5, he tries to do something, rook e3. The idea is to play rook g3 and check and mate. So it's almost forced to capture rook into f5, and now here in this position the simplest move was to just capture, and still the threat of rook g3 is there, and black cannot really stop all these things. Okay, this is something which cannot be stopped. But in this position after rook f5, Wesley So made a mistake. He played rook h3 and giving a slight chance to his opponent to come back in the game. Okay, still I will say that white is much more better after the defensive move, that is queen g7, because after queen g7 you are stopping this queen h8 check. Okay, but still I can play e into f5. The threat of rook g3 is there, and okay, black will be little bit in trouble. The bishop d2 is the best move in the position, but after rook g3, bishop g5, we have the choice. We can play f4 immediately, or we can play queen e4 controlling here, and then play f4 and grab this piece on g5 very soon. So that was also a troublesome move only. But rook h3, here he plays rook g5, but this leads to a check and mate, guys. He plays queen h8 check, king f7, and after rook h7, Nakamura decided to resign the game, because after king g6, rook h6 check, king. Okay, we don't need to capture the queen here. It will be a last mistake, because rook h8 will be winning position for black, because he is already having two pieces, extra pieces. Okay, after king g6, rook h6, king f7, then queen f6 is a good move. Wherever you move, king e8, then this check, rook will come back, and it's a check and mate. So guys, this is how he sacrificed two pieces and also managed to checkmate his opponent. So brilliant game by Wesley So. He just dominated in this semi-finals, and he is in the finals also. We will be looking at how he is going to play in the finals against Magnus Carlsen, and we will come back with interesting game from the finals also. Till then, stay tuned with me. If you are not subscribed to my channel till now, do subscribe, guys, because we are going to have lots of good videos on our channel. We will be meeting very soon. Till then, take care and goodbye.